this is Karen with newclevelandradio.net, and it's time to listen to How to Super Age with Elise Marie Collins. And Elise, I see you have some extra special guests today, so give us some background.
Well, we met at the San Jose Women's Club Ice Cream Social for Authors back in what month was that? August?
I think it was August.
Yeah, in August, and it was a fabulous event. They've been doing that event for many years. I'm not sure how many years. I think I even asked the event producer how many years, and she didn't know. But San Jose Women's Club, like Women's National Book Association, which I'm president of, has been around, I think, for over 100 years. There was a lot of women's organizations that are over 100 years old because they were really about the suffragists were kind of, bringing up women's issue, the first wave of feminism. And so that was it was a lot of fun. And I really enjoyed that. So today I asked them at that ice cream social, would you like to be on my podcast? Because their book seems so apropos for How to Super Age. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the book Beyond Widow. So please hold up the book. Thank you. Patty McGuigan, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, and Tesha
Yes.
McCord. Tesha McCord Poe, two women from different backgrounds became close after one lost her husband and then the other shortly after. Together, they found solace and strength in sharing stories of their painful and sometimes funny new moments they were going through. They decided to create a resource that they wish they had had themselves and wanted to provide for others. The result is a book which captures their experiences of widowhood with candor, tenderness, and yes, even humor. A book that could help a new widow feel less alone and an experienced widow feel more seen. It encourages all widows to embrace their own strength and believe in a bright future. Through poignant essays, the authors offer insightful observations on their own lives, practical tips for widows, advice for those who love and want to support a widow in their life, and more. The book is made complete by moving original color illustrations by Priska Wenger Maj, cartoons by New Yorkers John Klossner, and inspiring essays on notable widows from history by author Marian Lai. So it sounds like a fun book. And tell us a little bit, maybe we'll go from Tesha to Patty and just give us a little bit more about yourselves because I talked about the book, but I'd love to hear a little more of your background and what you're doing now besides the book. So our listeners can be familiar.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having us. It's always a treat. And when you name those folks who collaborated with us, it just really warms my heart because this whole project was such a collaboration, which is important, I think, as a widow when you lose your most important collaboration in life and looking for authentic connection with other people. And so I am just grateful that Patty invited me to write this book with her and that it's been such a joy. So we, connected informally before we started doing this project, and then just built a really true friendship and sisterhood since then. I have had a career, I'm an attorney by training, but had a career as an administrator in private schools, but always since high school have wanted to be an entrepreneur. So tomorrow marks 6 years since I founded my company called Joy Raising, which provides strategic fundraising support for nonprofits, which gives me a chance to be a little part of the success that all of these wonderful organizations have in making the world a little bit better than they found it, which is my, true hope to do with my life. And as a parent, I have two daughters, they're 21 and 23. That's my hope that they're learning from me, that we don't just let life happen to us, but that we are active participants in the direction that our life goes, and that we try to make it better for other people in ways that are valuable. And so, and part of doing this was to demonstrate to them in particular that they deserve still to have a wonderful life, even though they had lost their father. And that the best way I could do that for them was to show them how much I was going to fight to build a life for myself that I enjoy. And I absolutely have done that. And am grateful for the opportunity to every day live a little bit more of that joy.
Love it. Love it. Patty, would you like to share a little bit about you?
Yes, so it was a delight. And like Tesha, um, I was shocked when my husband, it's the first time I'd ever lived alone. And if you'd ever met me, you'd think, well, this is the most independent, self-starting, go-getting woman, feminist that was on the face of the earth. And yet I had never lived alone. I had been divorced before, so I had gone from my father's house to my husband's house. I had children, and I remarried. I had Dick. And so it was a real shock to me that suddenly I was alone. And I needed to figure out what I refused to just put on widow weeds and say, this is life, it's over for me. That's not my style. And so I had worked with Tesha's husband, and he had suddenly died of a heart attack. And I knew Tesha professionally, but not socially, kind of thing. I knew we'd done some things together. I invited her to lunch, and I said to Tesha, how'd you like to write a book? And it was right in the middle of COVID. And someone like me who thrives on people, that it was really challenging to be suddenly alone and no husband, no office to go to. And so I'd written a book with Marion Lai, a children's book, and I so thoroughly enjoyed writing that book. And my daughter said to me, well, Mom, that's cute and fun, but why don't you write how you're constructing your life now as a widow? And she said, Beyond Widow. And that's how we got the title. And we literally, she would write one page, I'd write another. We went back and forth and knitted a very strong relationship. And as we came in, we brought lots of characters with us in this collaboration. And it became joy. It really did. And I know it's not a how-to book. It doesn't overwhelm me with a lot of words. It's not frightening to pick up. It's beautiful, physically beautiful, graphically beautiful. And women really do get a sense of, it's like the teddy bear they had when they were a kid or something to pick this up. My story was really fun. I went to a wedding in Bozeman, Montana, and the bride's family was all from Wisconsin. And four of those women brought the book that Kathy had sent them, or they'd ordered it on Amazon or whatever, for me to autograph it. I felt like Oprah Winfrey. I mean, who takes a book from Wisconsin to Montana and says, I brought my book. I so loved it. Will you autograph it for me? So I know that we have accomplished what we wanted to do, which is a raw sharing of our feelings and what we had lost and what we were going to gain and how we were going to do it. Maybe, every bit doesn't work for everybody. A little of this, a little of that. And it's been a wonderful solace for us just to write it, and really wonderful to share it with the thousands of women that have read it. So, we're on this grand adventure, Beyond Widow.
Yeah, yes. And one of the reasons I thought this would be such a good topic is because we know that women outlive men. And so this is unfortunately or fortunately, I can't say, it is a growing group in the United States and the world. So do you have any statistics on like how many widows there are in the US, or how that number is growing?
Yeah,
There's
so go ahead.
13,700,000 widows just in the United States. And there's 1 million more every year. We have an evergreen market.
Exactly. Yeah. And well, for women, we live longer, but yeah, there's a lot that comes with that too. And we could unpack many of those things, but today we're just focusing on widowhood. And yeah, I don't say that, I'm kind of giggling, but I don't say that with a light heart. But your book is also lighthearted and uplifting, it sounds like. And some of the things I heard you both say, agency is so important. And I'm a gerontologist. I didn't say that in the beginning, but our listeners know that I studied gerontology at Leonard Davis School, a USC Leonard Davis School of Gerontology. So I always look at things through the lens of gerontology. And I think it's also interesting, I nerd out, but agency, and I don't remember the word you used, but that's what I interpreted being, you're taking charge of your life rather than letting things happen to you, which
Mhm.
I'm sure that can be challenging
Mhm.
when you lose your spouse to,
Mhm.
you just want to, yeah, I mean, it hasn't happened to me, but I can just imagine I just going to want to wrap myself in a blanket and not leave the house, but to take charge and, to demonstrate also what you said, Tesha, to demonstrate to your daughters. And I think of that as other generations, you're passing down, we're always passing down a legacy. And so what a beautiful legacy. I'd love to hear a little more about that, your idea of agency and how that connects to widowhood, because when something devastating happens, it's hard not to be a victim. So maybe that could also be helpful for even those of us that haven't had something as impactful as that. How do we, pick ourselves up and go with that agency rather than just being swept away by the grief and all the things that go with loss?
Well, I remember one time someone asked me, how has becoming a widow changed you? And I said, well, the obvious loss that is so painful, but mostly for the good. And that's because, in part, I often say, I have this strength that I don't know if I had before, that just was untapped, or if I've been forced to build it. So I don't know if that well of strength was there, but it is deep and it is powerful. And one of the most powerful things is prioritizing what's important or not. So there are things that used to bother me that absolutely don't bother. They don't even register for me anymore, right? And so that ability to prioritize helps you to create boundaries for yourself that people actually are responsive to, and so I did, one of the things that I did since becoming a widow is follow that dream of becoming a full-time entrepreneur. I don't know that I would have done that if I didn't say, now, especially because my husband died so suddenly, life is fleeting. That the afternoon is not promised. We had a great morning and he died late afternoon, right? So even though that you wake up today, you might not go to bed tonight. Don't wait. And so that creates a source of strength in just making decisions to do and not do a lot of things. And so now my days are filled with people and projects and ideas and music and all kinds of things that I'm choosing. And that creates a really powerful presence in the world that I'm finding that people are responding to that there's a freedom around that's pretty palpable. And I will say that I attribute a lot of that. It's not only that I was 49 when I became a widow, which is young, but the average age is 57 of when women become widows, and we imagine something else, much older. But I think it's becoming older, but also understanding how precious and fleeting life is, to just not waste time. I've traveled more than I ever have in my life, and that's always been something that I've really valued. And my friends are so important to me, and seeking to repartner, like really clarifying what it was that I wanted. That's not desperate for that, but really wanted that, and then finding it in a way that just has felt so pure and beautiful. But I know that's because I know how strong I am, and that while I love people, need them from time to time, but there's so much that I'm empowered to do.
I just have to stop for a moment because you are so beautifully illustrating. Again, I'm going back to gerontology, but there's a theory about aging, and I won't even geek out with the name, but I call it the 2% cell phone battery rule. When we think that life, when we think our horizons are shrinking, we don't have as much time left, we prioritize what is important. We really
Mm-hmm.
change things. That's why I call it the 2% cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think you've got 2%, you're only going to go on the apps, you're only going to text the people that are really important to you. You're not going to bother with all the other
Yeah.
roar. You're just going to cut to the chase. And it's been proven, in research, if you dig into the research, it shows that older adults, it's why they are happier, and you do sound like a happier person. It doesn't always happen. I think you're pretty young. It doesn't always happen. It can happen at different times because whatever event, and sometimes it's our own belief in age, or how we perceive, sorry, that's the word I'm looking for, perceive aging. But it really underlines that becoming a widow changes your perception of life in a deep way that can help you to make it more meaningful. So I'd love to hear Patty's take on that too. She's smiling, so.
Well, I come at it much more practically. I'll give you an example. Suddenly you are alone. Every decision is yours. I cannot tell you what it is. Lots of things you say, well, those are boy jobs or whatever, but now we are alone. I always tease everybody, it took 25 men to replace Dick Bush. The happiest moment I've seen Tesha was when she got a new roof. She must have said, yeah, Patty, I can't believe it. I have a new roof. I interviewed all these people. I chose the people. I guarantee you that wouldn't have been a high point in her life. She was thrilled. She had gotten a new roof and she'd done it all herself.
That's right.
My high point was fixing my doorbell. A doorbell is a priority to your house. And most of the time as you age, you find older people have cockamamie ways of fixing things around and they don't really get things fixed that they should. And, this, that, and the other thing. But I needed a doorbell. I'm very social. People come to the front door. And I figured out how to get the big things were easy for me. The little things like the doorbell, I found really challenging. Once we did the doorbell on the roof, that was another stripe on we are invincible. We are invincible. And so I love this 2% rule, and I'm going to borrow that one all the time. Isn't that a good one?
That's great.
I've always, touched lots of different things. And I think I'm basically stopped at the age of 12 and never grew older. But now, when I'm around all these old people, and they all are talking about how short their runway is and everything else, I just excuse myself. Like, listen, I got to get on my bike. I got someplace to go. But I do realize definitely that being a widow, and I really loved my husband and I had a great marriage and he was a fabulous guy. But I happen to have more batteries than he did. And so I have this whole new section of my life that has a different set of rules and regs. And it's my responsibility, not anybody else's. It rests with me to figure out how to put this life together so it brings joy to me and the world and my family and everything else. And it's interesting because Tesha and I'm 25 years older than Tesha. So my husband had a chronic disease. Hers was all of a sudden, but we were both professional women. We both had 2 children. And so we looked at life through different lenses and had different, I call them speed bumps, that we had to get over. And by golly, we have done it. I am so proud of us. And I know that we are an inspiration to a lot of other women. I really do know that.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll say that Patty's such an inspiration to me. One of the things, and so the idea that you don't wait until you're a widow to prepare for it in a lot of ways, but one of them is in your mindset too. So if you ask Patty what she does every day, she gets on her bike. And, there's so much research around how good that is, but it is who she is. When we go to lunch, I'll drive the 20 miles, to get to the lunch, and she'll bike the 5. And, it's so beautiful to see. So she really inspired me. This past summer, I went to the Dominican Republic to learn to surf. What 53-year-old woman should learn to surf? None. But that didn't stop me, and I'm horrible at it. I will get better. But, the idea is that even our physical self, we don't give up on that. And as women, particularly in this age and certain affluence, there's so much you can buy and all the creams and tucks and all that you could do to try to chase beauty rather than really looking inward at, your health, but also what makes your heart swoon. Right. And so we could give you lists and lists of things that we do that we enjoy. And that was not true for me when I was a young mother, when I was, working as an administrator and going to all these meetings and, other people's agenda were primary. And there was a season for that. But I'm so glad that I didn't totally lose touch with what was important to me, because then when I had the opportunity as an empty nested widow to have all this time available to me now, that I was able to fill it and continue to fill it and explore what is it that for me resonates, and what do I want to do with my day, rather than being so upset that there's no one to tell me or someone else's day to make better.
Yeah, I really love what you're saying about beauty and about what that is, because it's not all these cosmetic treatments in my mind. It's like, what's in your mind? What's that glow? I see the glow in your eyes. And what is really turning you on? What is making you excited? Because that is so compelling, as opposed to like being, I don't know, just putting all these things to make yourself feel like you're uh, yeah, it's inside out for me. And I see that time and time again with women. And if you are engaged, active, loving what you're doing, you're going to want to just beautify yourself in a way. You want to put your best foot forward. It's not about like, oh, I've got to look such and such a way, whatever that interpretation is. And yeah, so that was beautiful. I love that. I also wanted to say, I love that, Patty, you were talking about your friends. I think this is what I heard, but you can correct me. Your friends talking about aging and kind of almost commiserating about it. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you get on your bike, and that's like totally the same thing I do. And that's so important, because our perception, I keep giving little tips, but you guys have so much wisdom that I always want to frame it again with gerontology. And it's all these things are researched that, our perception of aging is how we age. So if you're sitting there, it can be fun to be in community with, our friends that are maybe the same age as us or older or whatever. But when everybody gets on that bandwagon of complaining about I just do the same thing. I'm like, let me excuse myself, because it is like a contagion, and then we can all go there, the glass half empty or the glass half full. So I love this idea. This could be another book, you're riding off in the sunset on your bike. See you later. But we do need to walk away, because we've all been steeped in this brew that is, doesn't really give us a clear picture of aging or how to age. We don't know. That's why I have the show, How to Age, because I think it's a lost art especially in the
Mm.
United States and many Western cultures. Yeah. So
Let me give you one idea for that. Force yourself. One of the chapters I have is get friends in different decades. And I work at that. I have friends that are I have my grandchildren in their 18. I bicycle with my grandson and his friends, and I take them all to lunch. A free lunch will buy you the friendship with 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds. There's Tesha and I are two different decades, different ages. My age, I always call it the organ recital. They go through all their organs. I don't want to do that. The other ones are seeing life through a different lens, and they invite you to see life through their lens. And that is wonderful. That is just so good for your soul and for your own perspective of what you're dealing with, of what is important and not important. And you have to work at it. You've got to be very active. Invite them to lunch, go to their meetings, invite them to, art exhibits or things that are going on. Don't get upset if they can't come. Ask again, because their lives are very, very busy. Ours, we suddenly have the gift of time. So, but I cannot tell people how enriching. It's a vitamin to get all these different women's in there. I happen to have a daughter that's in her 50s. So I probably have 24 friends that are in their 50s, and what they're going through, I went through. And it's really fun to see, what they worry about and what they don't, whatever, I love that. I just feel like that is a number one priority is, get a variety of friends in different decades.
I love that. And I for a while I had that, well, a similar quote from one of my professors. He was actually a guest lecturer, and he said, if you want to live to be 100, make younger friends. Because, and I see that with my parents too, because a lot of your friends don't live as long. So if you want to live longer, Yes, and I'm going to take you can take my battery rule. I'm going to say it's a vitamin to have friends in different generations because that is a vitamin and that's a beautiful, quick, easy way to remember it. And yeah, sometimes we forget to take our vitamins or it takes effort. Like you're saying, it takes a lot of effort. And sometimes, different generations, we don't have, I noticed that we don't have a lot of interaction between generations except for families in our society. I look for them and I try to find events that are intergenerational because we get so age segregated.
One of the things that's been happening to me recently, now that my daughters are gone, is that their friends will come and hang out with me without my daughters there. So later today, a couple of their friends are coming over, and one of them wants to move to New York, but she doesn't have a job in New York. So she wants to talk to me because she knows that I lived in New York as a young adult. And her mom reached out because she said, you can tell her what you want, but I want you to tell her what my husband and I have been telling her. She's scared about what I might say because she knows me well enough that I would say, not irresponsibly, but if that's what you want, work every day towards it. And so it's just funny that the spirit that I am now known for is one that might give parents a little pause because it's pretty irreverent and free. And I'm proud of that, but it scares people sometimes.
Yeah, and you're kind of speaking to what intergenerational relationships, I don't like the word should, but could, let's say could be, because
Mm-hmm.
that's wisdom. You're passing on wisdom. And I mean, parents, yeah, we can get stuck in, it's easy to be fearful about our own children. So that's the beautiful wisdom. You've got that sparkle in your eyes. But it's also practical because as we age, we're practical, but we also know like, that we got to get that juicy stuff in, we got to sow those oats, we got to get out there. So that's a beautiful story, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I want to say, is there anything, if there's anyone that recently lost a spouse, lost their husband, uh, what would you say to any listeners that is in the deep pain of grief? Because, or even a breakup, like my
Mm-hmm.
son's going through a breakup now, and he's younger, of course, but it's very hard. It's very challenging when you're in the midst of that grief. And I'm wondering if there's anything you can say about that, or I'm sure you address it in the book. So
Yeah, so many things we could say. The book obviously has a lot of wisdom and thought about that. I think, and Patty can speak to this, having gone through a divorce also. The thing about becoming a widow is that I realized that the love doesn't end. You can still learn from them and you can still feel their love. And so not to think that it has to end then. And I lost my father 6 months before my husband. And so I had some of that, understanding when it happened. Awful to have them back to back, but which is why I carry both of their names. But so be comforted in that they will still pour into you in some ways. Obviously, they're not physically there and you don't have new memories, but holding on to the other ones and finding ways to honor them and honor the love that you had is important. I think also like really doing the work on yourself rather than trying to immediately try to replace that kind of relationship, which may be the obvious thing to go to, whether it's a breakup or losing a spouse. But thinking about, how can I demonstrate to myself that I can be okay, on my own? And that's pouring into the friendships. Also, when people offer you help, often say, I still say this, can I hold on to that offer for help until I have a real response? Right? I could tell you something flippantly now, but what I really prefer is that when I need your help, that you're going to be open to it so that I can ask you for something that very uniquely is yours to offer. And people are willing to do that. And what I find is that in those moments where I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to figure this out. I remember this army, my sister called it a tsunami of support that my daughters and I received. But these people who in my life who have done the most amazing things, including a friend who has now lent me her car because I'm having such issues trying to replace the car that I drove that was my husband, because I always drove whatever he was tired of driving. So I haven't made an independent car decision in 20 something years. And she's like, just take this car that I'm not using. It's a beautiful car. Easy to say yes to, but that's not the kind of thing that I would have thought of myself, or when someone says, can I help, that you would think of, but it's exactly what I need now until I can figure out what I actually want to drive. So just being open to the support, and for people who are very capable, resourceful, have resources, that can be hard to be so open, to be the target of support, because everybody hates pity. I hate pity, but this is not pity. This is actually friendship, and it's love. And knowing the difference between that is really important.
Yeah, I love that. Hold on. Can I hold on to this? That's a beautiful way of putting it. And that I think that it could be used even if you are the person offering support, because I think so many times our heart goes out to someone and we want to offer support, and the person might be so overwhelmed that they say, oh no, I'm fine, or they don't know, they could have all kinds of responses, but you could suggest, well, you can hold on to this offer if you need it at any
Right.
time, redeem it. It's a beautiful way of putting it, because I think, yeah, especially for independent, I'd say men and women that are going through something, hold on to that is something that kind of sticks in your mind, and it's beautiful. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that, Patty?
Well, it's funny. The cartoon that I put on the bookmark that we have was this wonderful cartoon. We're so sorry for your loss. You have our deepest sympathy until 5 o'clock when we have dinner plans. And that, yeah, indeed. And so I think it would be I really like this. Can I hold on to that offer? And when I have a friend now whose husband's, I'm very practical. They just did brain surgery for 8 hours. He's 78 years old. He's not thinking, he can't talk. He's gone. She's not going to have what she had before. And what I'm going to say to her, she doesn't need me to bring a casserole. I don't cook. So the casserole I would bring would be unedible. But I'm going to say to her, I'm going to give you my help. I want you to hold on to it till you need it. But there's be a point that you're going to need a big dash of Patty McGuigan, and I'm going to be there for you. And so I'll tell you what I'm envious of. Tesha had her neighbor take out her trash cans after her husband died. That is such a wonderful gift. And every Thursday, when I have to take out my trash cans, I look and see my neighbors are all old. They can't get their trash cans
old.
out.
It makes him feel like Superman. He's old.
Oh, yeah,
but his back is bad.
What a gift he gave you,
Yes.
Tesha knows. For 6 years, I've said, he's still taking out the trash. God love him. But I think that's really, it really is. You've got to find what parts of your muscle that you need to build up to deal with this. And an opportunity is an inconvenience well received. I live my life by that. It's a G.K. Chesterton. An opportunity is an inconvenience well received. And death of your husband is a big inconvenience. My divorce was a big inconvenience. But if you spin that around, it's a new opportunity to redefine yourself. And as Tesha said, you got to look inside. You got to find out what is it deep down I always wanted to do. I didn't even know I wanted to write books. And I've written 6 of them now. And I really like writing. And I don't know if I would have ever done that had I not had the loss of my husband. It's interesting. In 2010, I received one of the Women of Influence Awards. And in it, they asked you 10 questions. And one of them, what's your 5-year goal? And I had written, I'd like to write a children's book with my grandchildren as the hero. I totally forgot that. And when I just have a new book out called Scraps Build a Pile, and they put that in there and she highlights it. My daughter read it. She says, Mom, look at this. I had forgotten I even said that. And lo and behold, 10 years later, that's what I did. So it's really interesting, the inconvenience of this pulling someone, because when you're married, you're like Play-Doh. The red and blue gets mished all together, and trying to get the red out of there and not the blue. But you do get to build a new life, which it fills up you, and you have to search what that's going to be. And I hope that it's not wearing, black every day and mourning the loss of your husband, because he gave you everything he had. And he doesn't have, all those memories you have, but he can't make that last round with you. And now you have the right to do that. And I think that's such a great moment when you accept it. It's really empowering. I mean, you figure out how to do roofs and you figure out how to do doorbells. I mean, those things are really, ask women, when's the last time you did a roof? I mean,
Right.
I think it's amazing. And those things nobody can take away from you. I mean, nobody can take that away from you. I think it's fantastic.
And the thing is, 75% of wives become widows and 100% of people die. So the idea that we're going to know that, embrace that, and not be scared or deny it and say, okay, if this is our fate, we're going to be okay and move forward anyway. People kind of shun, and I have had friends' husbands who were appalled that I would think about repartnering. How could you? I'm just like, that's what your wife's going to do if you go. You're not going to be here to witness it, but best believe she's going to come to me for advice about that, right? And so I think facing it, the truth is we all die. And so I'm really guided often by the Dash poem. That talks about, on our tombstone, the year we were born and the year we die are the years that people focus on so heavily. And most of us don't choose those years. Those of us who choose to take our lives do choose that last year. But the dash in the poem, in the middle, is what the poem is about. It's every day we get to choose our dash. So if my dash is going to include time when you're not here, let me be okay with that and let me move forward. Easier said than done, of course. You talked about you could go under a blanket and not come out all day. Definitely have days like that. We talk about that. It's okay to have days where you don't want to face the world, but don't have too many of them in a row. Don't do that, right? So I have had friends who've come and I had a friend, she's like, I will sleep on the floor next to your bed. And I've literally, the first time I had to go to the hospital without my husband, and they said, who's your emergency calls? Is Keith Poe still your emergency call? No. And that just broke me down. Poor nurse, didn't know what she was stepping into, but literally had a friend who laid by my bed while I was there. That's what you need.
Yeah.
That's what you need.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I know I've heard from Patty, but I want to emphasize for the audience, the book is not a book you have to read cover to cover, but it's got a lot of, like you said, illustrations, cartoons. Tell us a little bit about how readers can read the book or gift the book. And it's such a beautiful book.
You want to speak to that, Patty?
Yeah. So, I walk and talk a lot. So, and so when I wrote the first book with the other grandmother of my grandchildren who lived in England, and it was the pandemic, and we wrote it over email. But I had this friend who makes books in New York. I call her, she is my soul sister, and she's everything I'm not. She's German and she's perfect and precise, and I'm Irish and crazy, and close enough works for me. A perfect combination. So Tesha, so she had put this book together, and then I kept saying, I need this. My son said, Mom, I've got a friend. I said, I need illustrations, and he said, I've got a friend that does things for the New Yorker. He gave me it just grew as I walked and talked. So now there are 15 people in our posse. I call us Whirlwind Press, and those women all do their part. The Marion Lai you mentioned, she's in England. One of our editors is in Hawaii. You didn't mention, the soul of all this that makes it gorgeous is Maria, who's in New York. Tesha's roommate from college helped us with the design of the cover. books are printed in Richmond, but our distributor is in New York. We've got someone that does our PR. She's in Seattle. So and we call this. We've won awards for this. Maria said, "What are we going to call ourselves? We won a big award at Portland Book Fair." But they want to know the publisher's name. And she says, "Your name?" I said, "No, I don't want to use my name." And then my business name is McDormand. But no, I don't want that. And Maria said, "Well, Patty, you're such a whirlwind. I don't know what we're going to do." I said, "That's it. We're a whirlwind press." And I call us a nonprofit that if you've ever said there, "I'd like to write a book," you come to us and I can point you in different directions to get you through writer's block, or how do I do this, or how do I do that? And so that's kind of how we put it together. We launched Beyond Widow, thank you, Maria, in New York at the oldest bookstore in New York. We had Rizzoli's 150 people there. It was wonderful. Wasn't that magical?
It was magical.
It was really magical. And so, through, we've done book clubs, we've done the speeches at different old age, I hate to call it, but they are old age homes, retirement homes, I guess, women's clubs. I follow every lead that's ever given me, i.e. down there in San Jose, I traipse down, I tease everybody. Barbara Streisand is not pulling her little red wagon, getting her books and willing to sign them, and I do. And so, everything leads to another thing. And so that's how we've put these things together. And it's just wonderful. We've got a publisher now. I just was telling Tesha this morning out of Kansas City, big publisher who specializes in gift stores and books that are illustrated. Well, she is crazy about this book, and we're supposedly going to get an offer so she can do much more of a mass distribution than we're capable of.
Oh, and then also the cemeteries that you
oh my God, yeah, the cemetery thing. I'm a salesman at heart. It's fun to sell these one at a time, but I think, where am I going to sell these in bunches? So I had a client who's on the board of this. He owns 2 cemeteries and 4 mortuaries, so he bought 1,500 books. I love this man, And there's one in Texas that owns all of the Neptune Society and everything else. I haven't cracked that nut yet, but if we make it, we'll be in every motel in the United States next to the Gideon Bible. Isn't that funny? So that's the salesman in me. But that's, no one gets this book and says this was a waste of time to read it. They act like you have given them a new, it's better than a new lipstick or a facelift. It really does. There's something in there that'll speak to everybody. Yes. It's just Tesha and I don't know how we did it. It was tense. It wasn't hard for us. We had a lot of help with this. So Anyway, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was thinking of how someone would open up the book, but I love all the adventure of publishing, and it also speaks to doing something fun, making it exciting. You're pouring your passion into this, and it's flying. And I love I'm also, as I said, I'm an author and president of Women's National Book Association. So I love to see books get out there in the world and how, what happens. How you do it, because it can be easy to give up. A lot of authors do just kind of, put it back on the shelf and call it a day. But you have great ideas, and it is such a beautiful book. I just want to emphasize for the audience, it's an experience, and you don't have to open it, and you can open it anywhere and just enjoy it, especially if you are deep in grief. You don't have to, because sometimes you just don't feel like, I don't want to read something cover to cover. You just flip open.
Yeah, it doesn't frighten you with a lot of words. And I don't think, Tesha and I have said, I don't think there's another book like this out there. It really, it doesn't overwhelm you. It's not 300 pages that you start reading. It's not. It's very, very different. It really is. It was raw and heartfelt for us writing that, every single one of those things. Tesha's, my first responder is gone. That is really poignant. It was, and everybody's got that feeling. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I love it. And before we close out, I want to make sure I get if there's anything else you want to say, but I also want to ask you, have you thought about or have you spoken at any conferences, AARP or gerontology or something like that? You should speak at USC. That would be another one. Good.
Right on.
Fight on. Right, exactly. Yeah,
Hmm.
I think different, there's a lot of academic conferences or that just comes to mind. Like I
Yeah.
think would be another audience that might be buying multiple copies of the book.
Yeah, no, we've done several podcasts and some speaking, and when we're together for a speaking engagement, it feels like a comedy act because we just riff off each other. We're both so comfortable
Yes.
speaking to audiences, and I think there's a certain humanity, humility, confidence that exudes from us, and also the friendship is so real and rare. So it's very rare. Came to understand in our seeking a publisher, very rare to have. Co-authors who are not the same race. And so that was important too, the different ages, different, stories of how we became widows, but also different races. Because again, everyone dies. This is everyone's story. So if you look through the book, our illustrator has images of all kinds of women. And so it's a subtle thing, but not really. Because in saying you don't have to be one, you don't have to be actually like us because we're not even like each other to share in our story is very powerful.
Yeah,
So that's important, I think, to note as well.
I love
And
that.
we would be delighted to speak at conferences or, that would just be a great thing for us,
Mhm,
I think, and it would be good for the audience,
mhm.
because we're real women. We are both, and we've done it. We are
Yeah.
doing it. That's what I think is really, you know, the exceptional thing in 2025. It's all started in 2019, 2020. We have done this. We faced that cliff and we figured out how to live a full, active, wonderful life. And it's doable.
I love that. And just uh your personalities are so perfect together. You just have different takes on everything, which I love. So it's been a
Yes.
pleasure. Is there any final words or let us know, let the audience know where they can get the book?
Yeah, the book's on Amazon, easy to get. You can have it tomorrow. And so please reach out and get there. You can also order it with a bookstore. They can order it through distribution. It takes longer, but that's another way to get it. But yeah, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity for sharing your platform with us. Thank you for the work that you're doing around aging. I think it's so important. It's so counter to all of the messages that we get around, how women can be valued. And so thank you for standing up for, for this process because there's so much else that's countering what you're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll say right off on your bike if you if you
Okay, well,
start
and I
getting
want to
going.
thank you. This is exciting. I've never even been in Ohio, and I always think if I crossed the border, they'd probably burn me as a witch. So it's really exciting. That's exciting. And what you're doing with this, I had no idea your organization existed. And so, I'll be back in touch with you on that. And that's exactly, you are, I have discovered you for better, for worse. You're going to hear from me again. So.
I promise it's for better.
Oh no, it
It's
is.
never for worse.
Definitely, yeah. Okay, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so very much. And
Thank you.
yeah, talk to you all soon. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye
Okay,
bye.
bye.